Pastor Winston builds a church. When the building in this photograph was taken by Vermilion photographer Richard Kuntz, I was 5 years old. At that time, one could count the number of churches in our village on one hand. There was St. Mary's Catholic Church led by Father Paul Brissell, the Evangelical and Reformed Church, E&R Church, with Reverend Norman Greenewalt at the helm, the First Congregational Church piloted by the good Reverend Earl T. English, and Gospel Church on State Street that was served by Pastor A. Lee Winston. Note, at this time I am unsure if the reference I found to Winston's church refers to that of the present-day Harbortown Community Foursquare Church on State Street, or one at another site. In this photo, Reverend Winston and his brother-in-law, Reverend Edward Engelhart of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, have swapped their professional clothes for overalls and their Bibles for hammers and trowels to construct the building that citizens may now recognize as the former Church of God on Decatur Street, across from South Street School. It's now a home, by the way. Construction on this project was started on July 15th, 1949. And with the exception of 3 weeks Reverend Winston spent at the annual missionary conference at Beulah Beach, work continued until it was finished early in 1950. With the help of Engelhart, all of the concrete and brickwork on the 23 by 46 foot building was accomplished by Winston. The trusses for the roof were built with the assistance of the pastor's father, Lee Winston, of Crothersville, Indiana. At the time, Winston had served his local church for about 10 months and had been an ordained minister for 12 years. Mr. Winston, a native of St. Louis, Missouri, was no stranger to construction projects of this nature. After receiving his education at Ashbury College in Wilmore, Kentucky, where he met and married his wife Frances, he erected orphanage dormitories and in Columbus, Ohio, built a church parsonage. Prior to coming to Vermilion in November of 1948, he had completed the construction of a church in Franklin, Indiana. Another item of local interest concerns a lady the Winston couple became acquainted with while attending college in Kentucky. Her name was Lenore Grant. She was the daughter of a Vermilion couple, Mr. and Mrs. William Grant. Lenore married a missionary, Reverend Pittman, and traveled to South America to carry on the work of the church. Sometime during the 1940s, she died at a mission in Brazil. Kuntz's photograph of the Reverends building this church, that for many years was affiliated with the Christian and Missionary Alliance Church, whose central headquarters was located at Beulah Beach, is also interesting for many other things that do not appear in it. Today, the church is surrounded by homes. In the original article that appeared with this identical picture in the Vermilion News on September 8, 1949, the building was said to have been set on a cement and block base exactly 22 feet from the street line to align with other new construction on the street. It is more than likely that several homes were being built just to the north of the church. Many of the homes behind it on Jefferson Street were not built until the mid to late 1950s. I recall visiting one of the Jefferson Street houses with my school drafting class as it was being built, probably around 1959. However, that which the picture graphically illustrates is the true breadth of the little village of Vermilion just a step over 50 years ago, now 70 years ago. While some homes did exist along Jefferson Street, at the very west end of South Street, and beyond the wood behind the church at the end of the Thompson or Street, this was, for all intents and purposes, the very west end of town, and it was in this suburban wilderness that Reverend Winston raised his second church.